Yes. Okay, maybe that's a little hyperbolic, but I want to reflect on something that's been bugging me lately. I love the Horde, but you probably noticed that I'm wearing an Alliance tabard. From when I started in Cataclysm all the way through Battle for Azeroth, I always mained Horde. But my enjoyment and attachment started to wane a little. I always maintained alts, and some classes I would play on Alliance side for variety. Dwarves and werewolves are cool, but I always liked the idea of the War Chief calling for the Horde! We'd raise our axes, just the absolute best feeling, and I don't know, it used to be. If you close your eyes and picture the Horde, you might be like me, and you see some green-skinned orcs, some mighty minotaurs, noble trolls, and some undead horrors all standing under that big red flag. But when I visit Orgrimmar, I just kind of see a lot of random Second Life characters. The big chunk of the RP players I see in the tavern are Blood Elves, Pandas, and Volpera. Throw in those other elves that use the Night Elf body and animations, and it just kind of, I don't know, it mixes up the visuals a bit, and it just seems like a random collection of ideas. Orcs and Tauren are basically a minority in this city now, and the citizens I see the most don't connect well with the architecture. I want to see orcs standing next to these massive tusk-based buildings. It's kind of weird to see a Pandaren and a Blood Elf hanging out next to so many dirty spikes on the walls. When I play on my Tauren, I don't feel like I belong here anymore. And I need to maybe do a whole separate essay just on the state of the narrative of the story for the Horde. But let's focus on visuals. Going back to the beginning, I think the only real furry race was the Tauren, but they got this easy pass for being a classic fantasy monster. It's a monster race, not a cow persona. You can get into this war fantasy real easy. Just look at his big mountain of muscle and a big old axe. That's cool. The next furry race we see is the Worgen. And similarly, it's easy to argue that werewolves belong in a fantasy setting. They're supposed to be a little more civilized since they're part of the Alliance, but everybody got at least a little side-eyed about the female faces. There's debate if the original Chihuahua face was good or not. I kind of prefer the alpha design, but a lot of female players especially responded, saying that, hey, this is a cute character. Okay. That's fine too. We follow that up with the Pandaren. Originally a joke in Warcraft 3, now players of World of Warcraft get to experience a joke. But let's really look at this face. Really look at it. I don't think this is the face of a Warcraft character. We crossed a line at some point, and this is a sign of it. If I found someone who didn't know Warcraft at all, and I showed them this character, do you think they would say, oh, this must be an award-winning fantasy MMO character? Or, hey, cute panda. And then, the biggest transgression, the Volpera. Up to now, there have always been established backgrounds for every playable new furry, even if the explanation is a little thin. Volpera came out of nowhere, and as far as I can tell, they're only playable by virtue of being cute. The Volpera race live in this harsh desert, but they have their way of life and traditions and make do with what they have. Then, one day, for some reason, they decided, hey, let's go ahead and join this massive horde of warmongers that dominate half the world. Oh, hello, what's that? You decided to declare war on the world? And you're led by an undead banshee woman who keeps killing her own people? And you set a giant tree on fire for no reason? Hey, that sounds great. I'd love to die for your cause. Put me on the front lines, why not? I just can't wrap my head around it. And because they are really cute, there's a ton of them in Orgrimmar right now. Look at me, I'm small, I'm adorable. Of course I made a Volpera too. But when I walk into the bar and see 5 other Volpera and 1 Blood Elf, I just sort of ask myself, what game am I playing? The Volpera alone made it feel like I have no more attachment to the world, and I get this odd, isolating feeling when I play my Tauren or Orc characters. So I play a little more on Alliance now, and of course there's some similar problems with allied races and pandas, diluting that image a bit. But at least I'd still see a lot of humans and dwarves, just like the good Metzen above intended. So, what happens in the future? near future, actually, Dragonflight is, of course, giving us this literal Second Life avatar player race. And like pandas, we will see them on both factions. I haven't gotten hands-on yet, we're waiting for that alpha, but looking at the preview pictures so far, I'm real excited to play this one. Look at those horn options. Oh man, I can compensate for so much in my life with those giant horns. This is gonna be so good. And look at, the lore-breaking colors. Dude, you can be pink. Pink Dragonflight. Yee! But I have to ask again, is this Warcraft? My personal tastes are being pandered to, and one of the artists responsible for the Drakthir is notably a furry artist. I love her work, and I'm not joking when I say I want to play a Drakthir evoker, but am I gonna get that same weird feeling that this isn't WoW anymore? I look at my Warcraft posters on the wall and collector's edition art books. Nothing in there looks quite like this. There's a style of color choice and shading that makes some of the new NPC models a little smooth, and I don't know, it's almost like they're missing detail and they're trying to be cartoony, but they're not leaning into the cartooniness enough. I don't mind the new Gnoll or Centaurs at all, but I was talking to a friend of mine and he was kind of repulsed by both of these designs. It might be a subtle change to some or night and day for others, but the art direction of the game isn't only affecting player races. Dragonflight might be the most furry expansion we've seen yet, at a time when most players are asking for a return to form. So maybe furries destroying WoW is a little hyperbolic and silly, but I don't know if you can argue that they aren't having any effect on the game. Time will tell if I'm just paranoid, but one thing I know for certain is it...